Well, here we go. The Hunt and Land Man podcast. What is this, Caleb? How many is this? 30? 37. We're getting old, Alex. Old
37.
Alex Riser, a usual face with Southern AgCredit. And the reason I bring Alex on here so much, not only are we friends, Alex used to be in the real estate business. Now he's in the financing business. He's just full of knowledge. I mean, we do a lot of the same things investment-wise. We think a lot of the same things. He invests in other businesses and other things and knows a lot about investments like I do. So I think that I would be doing my listeners a disservice by not having Alex with all his knowledge on here. As always, this podcast is brought to you by Southern AgCredit that Alex works for. They take really good care of us. We're closing on Wednesday with them. Today is the 27th of February, which means we are getting really close to longbeard season. And we're getting pumped up. And the weather outside, wow.
Here it is. I'm telling you, it's going to be fired up here in about 2 weeks.
I can't get too excited because it consumes my life. I can't. I like everybody's like, you've been listening? I'm like, no, I can't go do that yet. I can't go be trying to figure them out every day right now because I need to get land sold because it'll consume my life too much.
Same way. I was at our place up in Holmes County, and I told my wife we got away for a weekend, and I said, I'm going to go listen. And she said, well, what time are you going to be back? I said, I probably shouldn't go listen if you're going to ask me that because I'll stay all day.
The man is learning.
Oh, yeah.
Husbands, take note here. In February, just wait. March is coming. All right, we're going to do a quick podcast here. So today we're actually going to film a part of an episode that's going to go along with some home episodes, a home footage of kills that myself and my son have killed right here around the house. And what we want to talk about, we're from Mississippi, and Alex is actually fixing to start investing in land in Missouri, as Ryan and I have, and my dad has. So, but we're going to talk about buying land and investing in land. And this is the 3 different timings of investments, and look, this is a loaded question. You can invest in land for any time, but we're going to take it the 3 types of investment in land. 1, short-term, less than a year. 2, midterm, 1 to 5 years. 3, 5 years plus, probably 10 years plus. Usually your long-term is, usually we don't know if and when we will ever sell this.
Well, the long-term investment carries a lot of emotion, like I'm connected to it.
I plan on using this investment.
Right.
Or parking money that I don't need for a long time. And this is, land is not the only thing you can do this in, but it's what I believe in. It's where my money is. It's where Alex's money is. And, if I'm not going to invest my own money in land, how can I expect my clients to?
Absolutely.
All right, let's first talk about short term. Short term, first of all, in order to do short term, which I, myself, and Alex, and a lot of my clients do, that's basically a flip property. I don't like that word.
Yeah, because it
has a negative connotation.
Once again, emotion, right? Because of the people that are trying to buy it, maybe buying it forever, where we're calling it flip, they think, Dollar General versus Louis Vuitton kind of thing.
That's right.
Which is not the case. It's not at all.
Right. And look, if you are a buyer out there and you've ever said, I'm not buying that, somebody's trying to flip that, forget it. If they're selling it for fair market value, it doesn't matter what they bought it for. I know you don't want people to make money off of it, but believe me, it doesn't matter if they're making money off of it. Because if it's the right property, it's the right property. If they're selling it for a fair market value, you can't expect the seller to sell you something less than it's worth, and he can't expect you to pay more than it's worth.
Right.
And where do we end up? Fair market value.
Everybody's happy, too.
Everybody's happy.
Well, and, the big part to that, people get lost into it, and this is accounting type of deal or financial deal. People go see a vehicle for sale, right? You go drive by and that truck is $65,000, and somebody wonders, what can I get for it? That truck's depreciating. They're going to ask, top dollar, but that's depreciating. But, land is different, man. Just because someone calls it a flip property, whatever term you want to use, that land's not depreciating. It's appreciating.
And even if you had to pay, if it's the right one, you had to pay a little bit more. Guess what? In 90 days or a year, it's probably going to be that value.
That's right. But that truck that you paid $68,000 for in 5 years ain't going to be worth $68,000.
That's it.
So, it's just kind of how you got to look at it. Also,
I think with short term, it's a little riskier because let's say you're financing or it's your cash, but let's just say for this sake, you're financing. If you are, that interest depending on how fast that interest can affect your bottom line very heavily, especially with interest rates a little higher right now.
Yeah, right. That's right.
So in short term, you got to buy right. You got to buy right. And that's great if you can go buy a $3,000 tract of land for $1,000 an acre, but it's tough to come by. And there's a lot of people, I want to invest in land, Slade. I want to do like you. Well, here's the deal. I'm in this business every day. It's hard for you to find the same deals that I find, no different than a guy in the car business every day. And he finds deals on vehicles.
Right.
It's the same, or a stockbroker. Hey man, they got this good deal running on Apple stock, whatever it is, it's the same thing. This is what we do. Usually with short term, there's not much of a timber play unless you got a lead on some timber that's about to be more valuable or something. Usually that's not the case.
Right.
Or, but with all three of these,
really in the short term financing, the biggest part is you hit the nail on the head. It's hard to find. So how fast you move is a big part to it, right?
It's almost everything.
Hey man, Mr. Slade, I got a place over here that is for sale for $2,000 an acre, and the place across the street though for $3,500. It's not give me a week and I'll call you back. I mean, it's you got to be ready to move. You got to be willing to take risk. And you jump in head first. Don't go feet first. Go head first. But it comes back to having advice, guidance from your realtor. I mean, you got
to be willing to pull the trigger.
That's right. I mean, so it's nothing. There's no book to it to say, hey, I'm going to get rich tomorrow on land. It's truly, you don't show up and play the game. You got to practice. You got to talk to the right people, your realtors, your banks. What can you do? How fast can you do it? Because there is a game plan that has to be put to play to make something happen.
And you gotta educate yourself. And look, I can tell you, because I'm in this business, I'm not tooting my own horn. This is just what I do. I have gone and looked at a tract of land, and before I got halfway through, I'm on the phone with whoever I need, Mr. Seller or their agent, make them offer this much. I've done it in Missouri and I've done it here because I look at enough. I know when I need to strike and strike fast before somebody else does. If you're not doing your own research, if you're not listening to podcasts like this, or reading books, or looking at lots of tracts of land, or looking at a lot of land on the internet, you have to do those things in order to be in the short term. And, short term, if it needs to be squeezed in there fast, also, if you're dealing with an agent, I'm going to say something that's going to come a little controversial, and I'm okay with it because I believe in it. If an agent's selling you something for short term, oh man, one thing, why is he not doing it himself? Okay. Why is this agent not buying it himself? Because he's trying to provide for his family. There's nothing wrong with agents doing that. If you think it is, they're educated in the process. You wouldn't think nothing about a stockbroker buying more, whatever kind of stock.
That's right.
Southern AgCredit stock, whatever.
Yeah. Timing's everything, man. I mean, don't, I hear that too. And it is a controversial thing because, well, if it's such a good deal, because I have it, being in my line of work, like, hey, man, you can get that place, and I can tell you it's a pretty good deal. And then why don't you buy it? Well, sometimes, the reality is I've got other things going on that I can't. Mm-hmm. But the decency to let just take that into account. But you're right, that is a controversial thing. But man, it's part of it.
That's it. It's and a lot. If people say, "Slade, why aren't you buying it?" Well, sometimes, hey, I've got stuff invested here, there, and everywhere. Maybe it's too big, if it's got too many zeros behind it, that can definitely be a thing. Mm-hmm. So be careful. If your agent's, oh man, you can buy this and do this, ask that question. Mm-hmm. You can ask me, but if you ask an agent and they're not answering right, you may want to pull the reins back.
That's absolutely right.
So that's a question. And look, just to go ahead and defend myself and the other agent that buys and sells land, listen, tomorrow, if I find a tract of land that's for sale for half value, I'm buying it. And look, if you're sitting on the phone waiting for Slade as your agent to find it, I'm sorry I'm not calling you. I'm okay with selling it to somebody and leaving some meat on the bone, but I'm in the business of providing for my family.
Absolutely.
And look, I bought some and not made a whole lot on it. So there's
Right. We're good at it, or I'm talking about you guys as realtors. You're good at it when you got the really good ones. They can, they got a portfolio, so the portfolio's got to work certain ways. But man, yeah, we're in the business to know what's a good deal and what's not a good deal. And like you said, people do take it personal, and I'm glad you're bringing that up because, well, why don't you buy it? Or,
we're going to need to do a whole podcast.
Yeah.
On this.
I mean, that really is that's meat on the bone. I mean, you use the term great there, but I'm really glad you brought all that up because it's nothing personal. It's all business at the end of the day, but continue on. I can go on this all day.
Yeah. I would say this, if your agent has been in the business long enough and they're not buying and selling, there's a question. Like they're not investing in the product that they're asking you to invest in.
Couldn't have said that better.
Yes.
I've actually lived and died by that. If you have somebody that's not willing to invest themselves, it's hard for them to represent you too.
That's it. And they're also missing out on priceless experience by not buying and selling when their own name's on the line and their own greenbacks on the line. Or Southern AgCredit greenbacks is on the line. All right, we're going to go into number 2. First, let's just end number 1 with, hey, short term's a little riskier. Timing is everything. Have your ducks in a row. If you do have to improve a property or something like that, usually you have 30, 45 days to close. In that time, all that needs to be figured out.
Absolutely.
You need to have, okay, on 3 days after the closing, the dozers are moving in, or timber crews are moving in, the pond builder or the camp builder, whatever you're doing to add value to that property, get it done fast. Okay. Also, with something fast, if you do sell it in less than a year, something we didn't bring up, so let's say you're a high net worth individual and you're paying 35, 40% in taxes. That's where you're going to be taxed. So if you buy a piece of land for $100,000, you sell it for $200,000, you're going to be taxed on that $100,000 in gain at your tax rate. If you sell it after a year and 1 day, you're going to be taxed. I think 20% is long-term capital gains.
Is it 20 right now?
Okay. I think it's 20%. With anything, I'm no tax professional, but I think I'm correct on this.
I do think you're right.
Okay, so things to think about with short term. Okay, we're going to make midterm after 1 to 5 years. Okay, so we fixed the 1031 problem, or not the 1031 problem, the tax problem. If you are going to take the cash out of it, you're going to be at only a 20% plus whatever you wrote off and things like that. All right, midterm, I do a lot more short term than I do midterm. But for today's episode, folks, we're actually going to a track that I'm doing a midterm play on. Okay, Slay, why don't you try to sell it tomorrow? Well, first of all, I had to pay a little more for it during COVID. Like a lot of my investors, I had to pay a little more for it because it's good. It's right here by the house. I'm using it. Cameraman Caleb killed a big giant off of it. Now that's he killed a big giant, so he can't go hunting there anymore. Not really, but I did tell him that his hunting rights do stop during turkey season.
Yeah,
I did kill a turkey off.
I was going to say the turkey parts. That's where
that's just kind of a given.
Yeah.
I thought he knew it, but I did emphasize it. But anyway, Alex and I are going to go out there with Caleb today, and I want to show Alex what we're doing on this property. This is a midterm play, and I'm going to talk more about this and the other ones because we're actively doing one right now. Okay. What's going on with this midterm play? Okay, I bought a tract not too far from my hometown. It's 5 miles from my house where I'm sitting now. Okay, I'm cutting timber on it. I cut most of it already, most of the pine plantation. I'm going to cut the rest. As soon as it dries up a little bit. We had a lot of wet weather. Okay, it's still going to have a bunch of pretty timber on it for hunting, more hardwood, and then I'm going to replant and use some government programs, which is a whole nother podcast, to put some different species on there, leave food plots, going to do a lot of cool things. Something I've never done on a track I plan on selling. I put a pond on this one last year.
Wow.
Really good bottom. And I made 3.5, 4 acre lake. You'll see it today. I'm going to stock it. It was just an easy place to make an inexpensive pond. I think it cost me about $40,000 for a nice lake. At the entrance, not far from power and water, right off Blacktop. It was just too good a spot not to do.
Right. And these are my favorites. I actually deal with these more than I do the short term because you can build a game plan. Just like anything you do, whether it's sports or work or business or whatever, you can really game plan for what you want to do because especially in the financing world, that 5 years, that 1 to 5 years, you're not paying a whole lot in interest. You're not building up a whole lot of interest pay into it, that there's still time to flip it, make good money. And you can, really see, you really see the vision come to life, right?
Get time to do
right.
the vision.
You tell me what you want, or you do a good job of talking about the lake or the pond and those things. Well, to see it come to life, man, that's what, when that's what you want to do. I mean, that's the enjoyment in it. Part of the investment, right? Is not just hunting it, but managing it, habitat management, seeing all that come to work and come to life. I see more people enjoy that, and I probably deal with that. I'd say more 90% of the times that intermediate.
And you can grow your portfolio like that too. Say, listen, young borrower, I'm buying 50 acres, but I want to end up with 500 one day. Well, use some sweat equity, take your time, use a good company like Southern AgCredit, and build that portfolio. So maybe when you retire and for your kids and grandkids, you want 200 acres, 500 acres, whatever. Right. You're just constantly building and having fun while you do, and you're learning.
Yeah. And you scratch the surface on it, man. That 5 years, a lot of stuff happens in that 5 years. People don't see, in the financing world, they think, make a minimum payment over that 5 years, but they get get promoted in jobs and make more money. Government programs that come into play that pay a big number that they can apply to principal. They're going to pick up and look and say, man, I've got a lot of equity built in this property, and they're going to pay it off faster. Well, I've always said this, and I've said this on your podcast before, not all cash is green. And that equity buildup, especially in a high interest rate market, I mean, it's better than a saving account, a 401k, a stock, because that cash is sitting there and it's going to, like I said, continue to appreciate. It's not going to go down. But then when time comes, hey, I want to upgrade, right? What do we call it? We require 20% down, right? So,
then we can use the 1031 process. So all that equity that Alex was just talking about, let's say you
buy the bigger tract.
Let's say you gained 100,000 in equity in your 5 years. Well, guess what? Legal as a beagle, you can take the 1031 process into the next tract, and you don't pay taxes on that 100,000. And that's why he said all cash is not green, because that's better than green. Because you're going to take that extra, and let's say you pay 30% in taxes, and you're going to put it towards, instead of paying Uncle Sam, Uncle Biden $30,000, you're going to put it towards the next track, and we can build that next place faster and faster.
Look, here's a primary one. I'll give you a personal one I'm doing right now. I bought a 24-acre duck hole. It's going to be eligible for WRP, paying $3,200 an acre. I'm getting $40,000 in WRP. I did a little spec house, talking about real estate. I'm not big in the spec house world, but I did help a partner out build another spec house. That's $25,000 there. So I'm looking up. I bought it for $120,000. Automatically, I had $65,000 put right back to it. Well, I can pay that $65,000. I mean, that $65,000 is a truck note nowadays. You pay that off in 3 or 4 years. I now sit on a $150,000 piece of property that, when the time comes, which I'm going to want to upgrade, and when it comes to the duck world, I mean, this is my first personal duck purchase.
I'm glad we got a friend with a duck hole.
That's it. There you go. And then you can upgrade. You can upgrade, and I've got $150,000. I can sell the place, or I can draw me a line of credit on it to put a down payment on a bigger place. But man, there's so many avenues that I have a 3-year payout on that property that I'll be fully paid for and clear through government programs and 1031 funds, just like we're talking right now.
And you can't do that with other investments, and land is just the unlimited the possibilities. I'm going to do a podcast. I was with my dad yesterday. He just started the gravel pit, and we're going to do a whole podcast about like the things that can just happen on land. Like my dad just found this gravel pit on his land, or let's say you got a bunch of white oak on your place, and all of a sudden they need more white oak, and it doubled in value. This happens with land. That's something else on midterm land plays is timber. Usually in a 5-year time frame. A lot of times some timber will, if you've got some good standing timber on it, will be time to cut. Or let's say you were going to thin some hardwood or thin some pine, and you thin it in that first or second year where it has time to heal. Because look, when you thin timber or cut timber, it's ugly for a little while. It is. It just can't help it. Big trees falling and getting drug out in trucks and skidders and everything else. It's ugly for a little while. In the long midterm play, it has time to heal. You get to enjoy it. Like, for instance, the one we're going to today, I brought Asa out there. We went yesterday, put some cameras out, some turkeys. Caleb and I went out there, walked around, put some cameras out for some late season deer, looking for what deer made it. You get to hunt it like Caleb and I did last year. There's the
other big part too is, I was out looking at that 48 acres we're doing with you guys right now. It had some pine timber on it, probably 12 to 15 years old. With some older pine in the back.
Yeah, that older pine in the back.
Yeah, with older pine in the back. But, there's an annual percentage growth rate that you got to account. That's adding to your value every year.
Usually about 8 to 10%, depending on the pine stand or the stand in general, and depending on the site index, a lot to do with it.
Absolutely.
But, so the midterm I would say we talked about in the short term how, it's a little bit more risky because it's a time. You midterm, you got a little more time.
Yeah.
When you place your place on the market, you can allow your realtor or yourself or however you do it to market the place and get the maximum value for it because you're not you're not squeezed as much by that interest. Something that I like and my clients like is usually, for me, if it's a midterm play, like right now, I've had this thing 2 deer seasons. I've got 2 years of deer history. Had a big, I think it was a 10 that made it last year. Caleb killed a big deer this year. We've had 2 or 3 other good deer on camera. So we're building a history of, okay, this is not just one random deer that came by this place. This is year in, year out. This is what's going on. Turkeys, deer, other wildlife.
And you're only going to get that in that 1 to 5 or
Right.
2 to 5 year range.
Yeah, you're going to.
But once again, recreation is a value that has to be recognized. Now we're producing big deer,
Proven.
turkeys, and it's more like, hey, this is what I want. This is what I'm looking for. The 1 year buy or what people want to see, they want to see results. And I mean, being able to provide those results, I'm telling you, just like the timber growth, you're growing that percentage rate and growing faster than any stock that you've got out there. I think stocks
recreational value across
Absolutely.
the country is growing like we've never seen it before. And who knows how far to go. For us in Southwest Mississippi, Baton Rouge is growing this way. Natchez is getting bigger. Everything's, growing this way. And the demand for recreational value is I think it's like, 5 years ago, I've heard people say, you can't put gold bullion behind deer and turkeys. I don't know if they can say that anymore because it's just proven. Certain areas that have better hunt and sell for more because of the demand. It goes back to the supply and demand, but the demand in a lot of the areas that I sell is because of whitetail deer, turkeys, recreation, creeks, ponds. Mm-hmm. That's one thing about this place we're going at with this midterm place that I have right now. Is I built a pond on it. It's got a pretty creek on it. It's got deer. It's got turkeys. It's got ducks on it. It's close to town. It's a great track right here in our back door. And back to why is your realtor not investing in land? I believe not only invest in land. I believe in where I sell. This track is right here by Centerville, in the area that I live in. I sell in. I believe in it, so I'm okay with paying a little interest midterm because I know that this area is growing in value. I know the value of this area. And at the end of the day, if everything changed and I had to keep that track, it wouldn't hurt my feelings. In fact, I thought about it. In fact, if I didn't build my house if this place where I built my house had never come up for sale, it would be one that I would think about doing it because I like the area. In fact, my brother used to live right down the road. So, midterm, that's like you said, that's the one you do the most of. I see a lot of my clients do it, throughout their buying career. They, it maybe wasn't what I was looking for, or I want bigger, or we need to downgrade. These things happen in a midterm play.
We hit it first. Game plan. You create a game plan that's gonna fit your needs, gonna fit what you want. And look, man, to enjoy the property, you can't put a value on that. You're getting the enjoyment out of the property as well as, investing, making a game plan, reaping the benefits, but getting to enjoy it. I mean, you can't put a dollar amount on that. We talk about that all the time. A lot of stuff that you buy, I'm getting to hunt it, or that's you saying, right, I get to hunt it. And then what are you going to pay to go to some outfitter or to go in some big time lease? Mm-hmm. It's your call, your place. Everything's right there.
And how much more rewarding is it when you're doing it on your place? It Absolutely. Really is. It's as rewarding as it gets. My son killing a big buck here on my home place this year, me killing 2 big deer, and Ryan killing big deer on our investment in Missouri.
Right.
Hopefully you killing a big deer on your investment in Missouri next year.
Absolutely.
Alex is lucky. He'll probably shoot a 200 next year.
Or unlucky like this year.
Well, that's because it wasn't your land. It's going to all change next year.
Touche. Yeah.
So midterm, we do more of those than anything. Really put pencil to paper, figure out, okay, Alex, this is how much interest I'm going to be doing. I'll be cutting this timber. Game plan, back to what Alex said. Get a game plan, enjoy it, and then let's build your portfolio through some midterm land investment. I think that it's a good thing. It's really hard for me. If you say, Slade, I want to pick option number 1, short term. Well, so does everybody else. It's tough because you got to buy it so right. Mm-hmm. There's so many sharks in the water trying to buy land right like that. I mean, and if you're not in this all day, every day, it's just tough. So midterm is very much more realistic. less risky. Let's buy it right. We don't have to buy it perfect like short term. All right, now let's move on to number 3, long term. Okay, this is a tract that you don't know if you'll ever sell. Mm-hmm. Or you say, hey, my kids can sell it. You know, right. This is 5+ years, 10+ years, you know, a tract that we know that we may pay it off on the last day the payment's due, because this is something me and my family want to enjoy, or an investment I want to grow timber on, or cattle, or whatever. Yeah,
really the conversation, there's emotional strings attached to it. You know, hey.
Yeah, every one of them has more emotion.
Right, exactly right. And this one especially, which we get a lot of these, and these are, when we get into the recreational side of it, you know, these are people, and I would say the rest of my majority, that short term happens very seldom, but it does happen. That midterm's more common. But then you have this big portfolio of people who are saying, look, this is the term we use, my forever place. It's always going to be for sale. You know, if somebody ever wanted to come around and pay for it, and I'd be willing to sell it. But the emotional strings are real, and we understand that. But that's going to cause, when you start getting into that time frame, how much interest you've paid over that 10 years is going to add up pretty good. If you're not intending to pay it off, you kind of hit all cylinders there. Somebody may show up and make the last payment on the 360 payment of, full 30 years, but that was what they wanted. Yeah, they paid a lot in interest, but they still have the equity in the property. Nobody, how you look at that financial statement, what people pay in interest, you can look at the bottom line number and go, golly, I paid a lot for that property over the life of the loan, which is what these folks do, but they're happy with it. Mm-hmm. But they walk away with, a $500,000, say I paid $500,000 for the property 30 years ago, and I went 30 years, and let's hope it appreciated. If it did, it did. If it didn't, it is what it is. I love this place. So we deal with a lot of those type folks, but there's a lot of emotion to it.
And, if you look at that number, what you paid in interest is kind of what you paid for your fun.
That's right.
You got to have them.
Great way to put it.
What you paid for your fun, and you got to pay for it somewhere. Mm-hmm. And plus, let's say I got a good thing. I'm gonna sell Alex some loans real quick. All right. Let's say Pine Plantation, good site in the next Southwest Mississippi. We got some new timber new timber mills getting built right now. Your timber, as we said, let's say it's growing at 8% a year. Alex's loans are at 8% a year. So what's your timber doing right now?
Exactly right.
It's paying your interest.
That's exactly right. You look at it from an accounting standpoint. That is a great way to put it. Look at it from accounting 101. 8% growth versus 8% interest I pay on an annual interest rate. And it's offsetting, right?
It's offsetting. Even though interest rates are high right now, it's offsetting. Now, you can't do that on every track. You gotta to get that kind of growth rate, you gotta have good timber, take care, have a forester, or educate yourself, or call me and I can limp you on through there. But you got to have a good track of timber to be able to do that. You can't just do that. Oh, I bought a track of brush. I mean, it's got to be good stuff. Mm-hmm. And it's good, if you are in midterm or long term, you get that timber where it's growing good, so somebody else is buying an investment. So when you get ready to sell it, look, people aren't dumb. They're trying to spend their money wisely just like you are. So get that thing where it's smart investment. And don't be the guy that says, Slade, I don't care about the timber. I'm trying to grow deer. Let's be a smarter buyer than that. I'm going to do my job as a realtor to educate you. Say, let's do both. I don't care if you don't want to ever sell it. One day, if your kids want to sell it, let's make sure they got good timber to sell. And we can make the timber and the wildlife go hand in hand. When the timber gets too thick, we're going to thin the timber, more sunlight on the ground. We're going to have more deer, more turkeys, more quail, more everything. And we're going to be putting money back in your pocket. Hey, I don't need the money. That's fine. Put it back in Alex's pocket.
And going back to it, item 2 and 3 on our list, game plan. You have the time, the game plan. When you get longer, there are things that can kind of happen, storms and things like that can hurt you that you don't plan for if you're going to hold on to it long term. But both those plans, you can truly put a game plan together. There's so many resources in Mississippi and Louisiana, but I'm sure it's across the country for all your listeners there, NRCS offices and cost sharing programs. And, Mississippi Department of Wildlife and Fishery runs a free landowner program where you can get a biologist out there for free if you own the land to create a plan together. So, man, there's so much that you can increase the value of your property at little to no cost, and sometimes even make money back doing it.
And if you're, as most of my buyers are, if you're getting your kids involved in this or your grandkids involved, is how much, if Mississippi State or whoever puts out these different clinics and classes that they do, deer steward programs, things like that, we can get the kids involved, teach them a skill set, teach them a work ethic, own land. So when you're paying that interest, just you're investing in your family. Just like my wife, we were talking about, we went skiing the other day, and she said, this is just expensive. I said, I look at it as an investment on our family. The memories we made, I'll never, as long as we can afford it, it doesn't bother me because I'm investing in my family, the time spent with my family.
And what we say it here you talk about getting the kids involved. That was the definition of fun to me as a little kid. Like
100%.
Helping, food plot work weekends and things like that.
Putting up deer stands.
And now you take the reins, as we're older now, we have our own kids, and man, that's the fun, right? I mean, that's what we enjoy.
That's Asa yesterday. She told me, she walked over at the track down the road, and she said, I'm going to build a blind right here, Daddy, because we built a blind earlier this year. And then she got over there and she said, what's this little road, this trail? I said, that's a hog trail. She said, ooh, I better not build a blind right here. I have a hog in my blind.
Priceless. Once again, priceless that you don't put a value on. Exactly that proves everything we're talking about right now.
Exactly. So the long term, we do a lot of those too. People are getting later in life wanting to buy, say, hey, I'm not ever selling this unless my kids sell it. Or I've got a guy, we wrote an offer for this morning, he's leaving, gentleman's 65, 70, he's buying a large tract of land, really large tract of land, and he's buying it as a legacy for his kids and grandkids. He wants them, he's being smart with his timber investment. He wants them a place to hunt, and he believes in land. He's a farmer out of Louisiana, but he wants some timberland, diversify his portfolio. And, so this would definitely be that more long-term. Well, what we're going to do, Alex and I are going to go out and look at a midterm investment that I have right down the road. We're going to talk about it. If you haven't seen it, well, that ain't come out yet, so I know you haven't seen it. But we're going to do the podcast along with some video we're going to do today and kind of show some of those things, what I'm doing, what my plans are, talk about the land, talk about the investment, talk about why we buy in certain places that we buy, some of the projects we're doing, some of the features of the property, everything land. That's what I want the Hunting Land Man podcast to be. Look, I love land. My clients love land. Every tree, acorn tree, pine tree, piece of privet hedge that deer are eating on, food plot, pond. I love everything about it. There's always things we can learn about it. I love to be in the woods with people that are smarter than me about things. Alex is a whiz on this finance and stuff. And what Alex does, Alex spends a lot of time with people investing in land like me. Now, I know what's in between my ears. Alex is talking to 20 slades, on a monthly basis, let's say, or a weekly basis. And so I'm going to try to get some of that knowledge out of Alex's head when we're looking at one of my tracts of land, and maybe myself and you as a listener or a watcher can pick some of that stuff out. We can both learn how to be better stewards of our land. And maybe the next time we make an investment in the land, we can do an even better job.
Absolutely.
I mean, even Caleb's ready. He said, look, I got plenty of money in my pocket. I see it sticking out of his pocket now. He's ready to invest in some land.
I told you before we started this, I'm proud of old Caleb, man. He has bought in. I love his videos, man. He's like, I don't want to say hunting land man too, but he's on his way, man. I'm so proud of him.
Well, he's going to probably show you where he killed his big deer. I'll be willing to bet he's going to go over and show you.
Well, he's killed bigger than what I killed this year, so I'm ready to go see it.
All right, well, let's go check it out. Hey, thank y'all for listening. God bless. We finally got some dry weather in Southwest Mississippi. If you don't have your turkey calls in your truck practicing, you better. Don't do it too much at home. Your wife will get on to you. But turkey season is coming up. Hey, if you're looking for some land, we got some new listings coming on the market soon. If I had to give a land report right now, inventory is low. Good stuff selling fast. We do have some good tracks on the market. Don't sit back on the fence and say, I'm going to wait till deer season, because when deer season get here, most of the good stuff will be gone. Call us today and we'll hook you up with what we got, and we'll find you what you're looking for.